and we are now recording this session, which we will post, hopefully. And we'll begin in just about a couple of seconds. I just want to make sure that we don't get any last-minute stragglers. We should wait 5 minutes. Maybe? Nah, okay. Just to let everybody know, this session will run about 45 minutes. And maybe a little bit over, but I want to give you guys plenty of time to get to your next assignments and your jobs, if you have them, if it's like on the schedule, because that was one thing we learned from the feedback from you guys, is not to have things so close to the hour shift. So you won't get the evil eye from fellow staff members and things like that. We have Sara Schrichte with us, and she is going to be helping us with the executive functions of Mind in the Making. I think you want to introduce yourself, Sara?
Sorry, I'm trying to open my video, but it doesn't want to, so here's my voice for now. I'm joining you from the children's cabinet, and I'll put my email address in the chat box in case you want to email me sometime. Thanks,
Okay.
Bruce.
No problem. All right, let's go ahead and get started. One moment. And I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep, I see it.
Cool, thank you. Okay, and as I was mentioning early, this is the Family Reading Program, a facilitated learning circle for early literacy and a guide to virtual programming. Hello. And this is a facilitated learning circle zone. And it's a collaboration of your experiences. And these are the rules for participating. Please be respectful, don't speak over one another, switch off all distractions, dogs and cats excluded. Don't multitask during the learning circle. And I'd like to add to number 3, little children, because some of you might be having the little ones running around as well. Okay, as for our objectives we're understanding phonological awareness, executive function, focus, self-control, best practices for virtual story times, sharing of early literacy and mind in the making skills in virtual story times, and a discussion time. Okay, and this is our timeline. We are in session 2, and we will be having another session, the same session on Thursday, November 5th, same bat time, same bat channel. Okay, let us start with phonological awareness. As you guys can see, phonological awareness is the ability to teach children sounds and, hold on one sec, okay, and how this is an important, this is a little blurry and I do apologize, but it's basically made up of word awareness, the words they become aware of, syllable awareness, pronunciation, and how they sound, onset of rhyme awareness, which is how the flow of words like cat and bat and other things, and phoneme awareness. Phoneme awareness is just the structuring of sentences and things like that. Okay. And why is this important? Phonological awareness skills are the basis for reading. Without these important skills, potential reading difficulties may arise in the early years. A child who has concrete phonological skills will have a strong platform in which to develop reading skills. All right. before we get to the next one, let's talk about phonological awareness and what you guys are doing in your story times. The reason I chose phonological awareness by itself is because, in a way, it is the easiest and hardest to do virtually. When you are doing a phonological awareness skill or pointing something out to the parents out there, it's important for the early stages of babies up to 3 for babies and children to be able to see your mouth. And when you're doing story times virtually, recorded or live, you have to kind of lean into the camera so they can see your mouth forming the words for the babies and kids, and to also demonstrate to the parents how that is done to the best effect. And I know you all have had story times and things like that where it may be seemingly easier for you to step back and say to a crowd of kids and a crowd of parents, this is phonological awareness skills, without emphasizing the importance of the mouth in this, because children are looking and listening at the same time as to what you're doing as parents and as storytellers. So it is important to let them know that this is an important thing for them to have their children looking at. Children will naturally look at that, don't get me wrong, but just so that you're aware of what they're looking at and what they're trying to mimic when they're doing baby talk and things like that. The other thing I want to point out about it from my own experience doing story times is big word, little word. Sometimes it's necessary to point out the big words during your story times as opposed to the little words, so they can start drawing the connection of the difference between the words and the sounds. And when you say something like cat, you say, that's a short word, isn't it, kids? And they all go, yeah. And if you say panther, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a big word. And you have to kind of get them used to knowing the difference between big and little. Another thing is syllables. If we do the clap of the syllables, like in bingo, B-I-N-G-O, that's one way of being able to do this live or in virtual sessions that will help them benefit. But now let me turn it over to you guys so that you guys can tell me, what are you guys doing in virtual programming that you think would help in raising phonological awareness? Can we start off with you, Casey?
Sure. I feel like I'm pretty good, like when we're reading a story and there's a word that I know doesn't come up a lot, it's a new word, and I talk about it. It's hard when you're doing it virtually though, because you don't have that feedback. You can't say, oh, do you know what this means? You know? Actually the other week we did for Halloween, I did a mummy story time, and there was a lot of sounds. And so before I started the book, I said, can everyone make this sound with me? And let's listen for the sounds that go with the story. So I don't know if that fits as well, I think. Just pointing that out before they begin so they can listen as we go and try to make those sounds together, and stopping during the story and saying, mummy, you know, or say that. Can you hear that sound? So.
Jennifer, have you tried that as well, the way Casey described it?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm here. I haven't done anything yet. I'm kind of just learning. I'm a library aide. And so I usually come in here with Samantha Brown, and we're going to be working on my coming up to speed as far as reading and doing online virtual stuff. I haven't done anything yet though.
Okay. Do you think this is helpful for you, at least?
So far, yes. So far I'm enjoying it.
Good. Just realize that this is all going to be, my first story time, I was so terrified.
Yes.
But at the same time, the show must go on. If you have a show must go on attitude, when it's done, and you learn from it. But I hope this helps you out a little bit. Judy, in your story times, are you phonologically aware of your skills or the way you're telling the stories to the kids?
I think we are. I mean, we have a lot of different learning opportunities and activities that we offer, you know, extended learning after the story time. We have links and things. And then also we're kind of branching out to, like I said, we have the early reader feature, which we focus on sharing, you know, early literacy tips with parents for the little babies with a little song, and then also with the older children with our early reader feature that we just started too, sharing early literacy tips. But I like the idea of actually, you know, I know we do that in person, but I like the idea for virtually to maybe emphasize that a little bit more, maybe somewhere during the video, you know, portion also. So that's a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, good. Maria, do you have anything to add? No. Cool. How about you, Mandy? I haven't done a virtual yet. Okay, well, hope this helps out, helps you out as well. Betsy, do you have any input that you think might be helpful?
I personally love to read rhyming books, and I know rhymes are so important for this. So I choose a lot of books that do have a rhyming element to them. And I also point out to the parents that, like, nursery rhymes, say those with your children. We usually do one in the program, and I don't know, I like to emphasize rhyming quite a bit.
Okay, sounds good.
I have
And
a question, Bruce.
sure.
I have a question. When you were discussing phonological awareness, you like put your mouth up really close.
Yeah, that was overly dramatic.
Oh.
But the point of it, but what I do want to say is that when you are talking to parents, the emphasis on the mouth should be there for little babies and toddlers, and it might be something you want to point out.
So like face the camera, don't look down at the book maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other and the other thing is maybe a tighter close-up of your face, if you know, so that they can see the words rather than lean into the camera like I did, because we're live and blah blah blah. And even if you're live, it, you know, a close-up, if you have a second person helping, I think would be beneficial. Terry, would you like to say something about phonological awareness and maybe an approach you've tried?
I too am fairly new to Storytime. I've been with the Washoe County Library for quite a long time, but as a part-time person, and once COVID hit, they encouraged us all to do some video story time. So I've done a couple. I tend to think of them as, I guess I seek out books that are more toward the, you know, say 4 to 10-year-old reader, but this is really helpful to focus on the phonological awareness for those younger ones and to make sure they can see your mouth. That's a good tip, because you tend to read the story and not think about the sounds as much. So this is making me more aware of the sounds and the phonological part of it.
Oh, cool. Well, great. Just another point, we're all raised on Sesame Street, I think, and that's how we approach a lot of our thinking about, at least when we started doing virtual story time, I started thinking, how does Sesame Street do these skills? How did Electric Company do these skills? And if you can remember those, maybe that's a way you can think of incorporating it into naturally. And also, I don't think it's a bad idea, maybe to say to the parents directly, this is, you know, we want to concentrate on phonological skills and have a brief description of what it is in your story time before you begin reading the book. And that's kind of what I would put in my 2 cents from my own perspective. Let me Okay, one second. Okay, and moving on a little bit, I'm going to be turning this over to Sara. And she's going to be talking about mind in the making, focus, and self-control. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen so she can share a screen if she wants to and tell us all about this.
All right. I'm going to look for my screen.
Okay. Hey, Sara.
Hi.
The blue.
Am I?
Blue.
Oh yeah, I've got my children's cabinet shirt on today because I'm representing. Let's see. Try to find the right one. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I just put these on a couple of slides. Last week, we kind of introduced the idea of helping caregivers build the 7 essential skills with children, right? And in general, Mind in the Making teaches us that supporting the bonding and back and forth interactions between parent and child, as well as helping a child practice executive functions like working memory, inhibitory control. That's kind of how we help build these essential skills. And we build the skills over time by not being either a helicopter parent or a snowplow kind of parent, but by offering autonomy for the child. So I think you'll see that Ellen Galinsky talks about that in the link to the video that I sent to you, Bruce, that maybe you have shared with the others. Also shared a link to a video about executive function that would help you go deeper about how executive function is working with all of these skills. But I'll move on because we talked about that last time. Today, we're going to talk about 2 of those 7 essential skills. The ones we're going to talk about today are focus and self-control, as well as perspective taking. Those are the first 2 essential skills in Mind in the Making book and learning modules. You can see self-control, focus, and self-control pretty self-explanatory, I guess. And like other essential skills, there's a developmental timeline that most of us follow as we develop this skill in the early months and years. We can boost children's brain power by giving them the opportunity to practice focus and self-control. They're ready for those practice building blocks really from birth, when they do things like shut out noises and turn away from bright lights so that they can sleep or so they can nurse. And then just as a reminder, Vroom and Mind in the Making show us practical ways in everyday life to build the skill. So this is a Vroom tip on the left that's aligned with this skill building. Tips that I'm showing you might not really fit into your programming right now, but it's certainly a tool that we can sort of call out for parents who want to work on these particular skills at another time. This is a little video of the research that Vroom and Mind in the Making use. I'm going to actually try to get really tricky and show a different screen, but not this one. So I'm not sure. Can you see the video screen now? Because I can't see you while I'm doing this.
Not yet. Are you sharing
Okay.
the screen?
I'm sharing my screen, but I think I need to share a different screen. So just give me 1 second. How about now?
Now it's up.
All right. So let's watch this little video.
It's called the Marshmallow Attachment. We try to set up situations in which young children make a choice between 2 of something that you prefer later or 1 of something that you prefer a little less now.
If you had to choose, would you like to have 1 marshmallow or would you like to have 2 marshmallows?
The whole point of the experiment is to set up an intense conflict between the 2.
Now here's how we play this game. I'm gonna leave the room. While I'm gone, if you can stay here and wait for me to come back without eating the marshmallows, then you get 2 marshmallows. Okay. But if you don't want to wait, you can do
We seem to have lost the sound.
okay.
The conflict for the child is very heavy, is that about half will go one way and half will go the other.
Oh, you made me come back.
It's like a little window into willpower for dilemmas that everybody faces. What we found is a very simple and direct way of measuring a competence that seems to make an important life difference. The longer they were able to wait at age 4, the better the ratings of their ability to control themselves and to pursue their academic and other goals.
Please come back.
The kids who are able to delay gratification are increasingly learning ways of managing frustration, ways of managing distress. In middle life, there's less drug use, higher educational level attainment, much less likely to have lowered self-esteem, to engage in bullying behavior with other people. Correlations are clearly statistically significant, but that in no way means that a youngster who at age 4 didn't wait a long time is in any way doomed.
Okay, so that's just a classic test that maybe you have seen before. I'm going to try to get back to my other screen, so just bear with me. Okay, so the last slide I want to show you about focus and self-control is this. I don't know how you choose your books, right, for story time and so forth, but I did point out before that there are several books for kids age 0 to 5 that have been identified as good skill building opportunities. These books and the corresponding materials are the things that Northern Nevada Literacy Program is delivering to the families in their family reading program. So this is how they've structured that program. So I wanted to make sure that you could see that. But you can see that some of these, you know, a book that's a pretty classic book that families might be reading at home, or that maybe you might choose to use in your programming, really illustrate ways to build this skill nicely. So not only building those kind of skill building modeling into your story times and your other virtual programming, but also showing families how, by using certain books, they're opening up opportunities to build this particular skill. So I just want to pause to see if you have questions about focus and self-control, because we're going to go over the next skill in the same way right up next. But I can pause here if you guys want to talk. It's just can't quite figure out how to see you and see my screen at the same time. There we are. So maybe if there's no questions, I'll just go on. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So the next tip, or the next skill that's kind of in the lineup, the 7 essential skills. We talked about focus and self-control just now, perspective taking. And so this is a little bit more than just being empathetic. It's really about figuring out what other people are thinking and feeling. And it forms the basis of children understanding the intentions of parents and teachers and friends and other people in their lives. Children who practice this skill are much less likely to get involved in conflicts. There's some really interesting research when you get into this particular skill. It's really fascinating, and I think it's really easy for us to think about this and how important it is in our adult lives, with all of our working relationships, with our, you know, home and partners, and with our families. This is just an essential part of everyday life and getting through maybe times when you're cooped up at home with your family specifically. So really timely. That's perspective taking. So this is another little video that kind of illustrates, again, there's a developmental timeline involved in understanding that other people can be different from us. And you can see a little bit about that in the research. This video will explain it a little bit more, so just give me a second while I find the right window.
The question of how early children start to understand that other people think differently than they do is at the heart of a series of experiments conducted by Alison Gopnik of the University of California at Berkeley and her colleagues. In one study, 14 and 18-month-old children come into the lab and are presented 2 bowls, one with broccoli in it and one with crackers. Dr. Gopnik takes a taste of each of the foods. Oh, yuck! I tasted the crackers. I don't like crackers. Ooh. Broccoli. I like broccoli. She clearly prefers the broccoli. To see if the child understands what she prefers, Dr. Gopnik puts out her hand and asks, "Could you give me some? You give me what I like." But. And what we discovered was that 18-month-olds would give me the broccoli if I acted as if I liked the broccoli, even though they probably prefer the crackers themselves. So even these very, very little children already seem to have realized, okay, this is a strange person, she likes broccoli, but if that's what she likes, then that's what I'm going to give her. And that's a really amazing thing for children this young to know. Thank you. The 14-month-olds were not like that. The 14-month-olds would just always give me the crackers, whether I liked the crackers or the broccoli. Could you give me some and then I'll have some? Oh, thank you.
So there's another nice little illustration of that skill. So if there's any questions about the video, that's just a piece of the research that's in Mind in the Making. And of course, I'm scrolling around here to change my screen back.
I'd like to add just something. One of the good things about perspective taking is you're already doing that through your story times. Most of your story times are designed to get the child to emphasize with the character that you're reading about. So you're already doing that in your story times. And the other one is a little bit harder to do, I think, virtually. But if you've done bingo, B-I-N-G-O, then you realize that that was a way that we were being taught how to do self-control. So, if you pointed out to parents in your story times, that try not to break the rhythm, so to speak, you can help them develop those skills in that way virtually. It might not be as hard as it may have seemed, like where am I going to get marshmallows, where am I going to get broccoli, how am I going to get, you don't have to worry about that. Just be aware of these are skills that you are probably teaching in your stories and in any of the other little add-ons that you do. Betsy, do you have any do you understand what was being discussed? Do you think you're doing that already in your story times?
I do understand, and I was just thinking, I think it's a Jim Gill song, Can't Wait to Celebrate, might be the one where it plays music and they have to wait.
Right.
And thinking that would be a good thing. I mean, obviously with virtual, I don't know if you can use music. We have permission from Julie Austin to use her Hello song, but I don't know if Jim Gill has given out permission. But during our live story times, we would play that one. And yeah, it has that time where they have to freeze or wait.
Yeah.
It's a common skill building strategy, right? So there's a whole section of Mind in the Making that'll talk about using preschool type games or the kinds of games that you might use in circle time to build these skills. It's a classic way to do it. Simon says, especially when you switch up the rules of some of these games, where you really have to focus on what's being said and really pay attention to when the rules change. Those are classic ways of building these skills, and they might be ways that you're already incorporating it into your programming, right? A lot of this is already in place in the classroom too.
Yeah.
Again, sorry, I didn't mean to put.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So just to wrap up, that there's another book, Polar Bear, What Do You Hear, is one of those identified by Mind in the Making as skill building opportunities. And this points out things like, ways to build the skill that you might be doing in your programming is practicing pretending or dramatic play. Really, this is those books and stories where you're looking at the different sounds or different faces or different ways different animals or different characters are behaving. These are ways of practicing perspective taking and building that skill. So this might be, as we go through these, you recognizing ways that you're already doing this, right? And then you might just highlight those ways that you're doing it when you have a chance and you're talking to parents, because these are things we want them to take away from story time and do when they're one-on-one. So I'm going to leave it there and let you guys start your discussion.
The other part, I'd like to ask everybody, can you think of a good book that you would read to develop empathy skills for kids in a go-to book? And if you could put that in the chat, and maybe we can talk about it. My best empathy is always Where the Wild Things Are, because that just teaches so much, how to get perspective also and empathy with, Max's point, so to speak.
Bruce, I want to share really quickly. Teaching Books is one of our statewide databases. Everyone has access to it. It's geo-authenticated in Nevada, so you don't need to sign in. You can just get to it. But I want to share the screen because I had them, Mind in the Making has book lists for every single skill, and I had them create lists for you, for us. And hold on. Okay, so this is my screen, and if you and I put the link in chat, you can see we have every skill, making connections, perspective taking, and these, if you click on one of them, it'll give you all 11 books and then all of the resources that Teaching Books has to go with it. Right, and so you can do what you will with that, book guides, activity lessons, but this is the Mind in the Making book list. These are the Mind in the Making book lists that Sarah mentioned last time. Okay, I'm done. I'll stop sharing.
Oh, and The Little Red Hen is a very good book. Thank you, Betsy. But yeah, so at least, the thing is that you have to teach these skills virtually to parents as well. And that part might, if you can just insert a couple of sentences or two maybe about it without getting too technical and explaining the benefits of it and so forth. But you yourself will be teaching these skills through your story times, whether you know it or not, because a lot of the things in Mind in the Making, I never realized that my parents were teaching me, my schools were teaching me, my librarians were teaching me when I was little. So, don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on you to deliver these skills to parents. But if you point out what the story is about, sometimes you can slip in just a little bit of information on why why you chose the story, perhaps. Has anybody have a book that they want to discuss that they think develops those skills for your, so you can help people out in case they're having trouble with this concept? Casey?
I think with this skill, it's actually, this one comes more naturally to me because kids love animals. They love to show you what's different. You know what I mean? They love to help you figure things out in the book. So feel like this one comes naturally to me because I don't mind making a fool of myself in front of them, which is kind of the hardest part if you haven't done a virtual before. It's kind of letting go and showing the kids that you can be silly and fun, and making animal sounds on a story time. That's the fun part for me. And so things like the book that's coming to my mind is the monster at the end of this book, where Grover is just beyond panicked that we're going to make it to the end, and Elmo's just this calm presence the whole way. And I love that contrast and pointing that out, and how can we help Grover feel better? You know, should we turn the page? And just the little things, I think, just inserting that sentence. I like that it doesn't have to be a whole spiel. It doesn't have to be a lecture. It can just be a sentence that says, you know, we're discussing the emotions that these characters are having, you know, helps your child develop this skill. It's not huge, but it helps parents.
So to the people who've never done a story time, are you understanding, are you already thinking of ways you can do this? Or teach this? No? I would fail the marshmallow test.
Yeah, you see all those videos that went around in the spring about the fruit snack challenge. It's the same concept, right? I would also fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Once you get over your initial nervousness. Yeah, there you go. A good story about nervousness is also probably in the list of things. Okay, I'm going to share a screen again. Okay, and thank you, Sarah. And this is basically our discussion time. And as you can see, I have a theme going on, but this is for Halloween. I'm going to give you some things to think about for the next time, and that's communicating and making connections. And for our basics, our learning skills will be print motivation and print awareness. So the top one is going to be the mind in the making. And the second one's going to be print motivation and print awareness. And I think you'll find those a little bit easier to do than they may seem. Do check out our YouTube channel. We do have the supplemental materials up there, plus last Thursday's much superior discussion learning circle we had, because I wasn't a nervous wreck and not having all the technical problems I was having. If you guys need to get in touch with us, there's my number and my email. I check it. I try to check it once a day for my voice messages because I'm working from home. But if you get any email from me, you can call me on my cell phone. I just didn't want to put it up here and have it shared with the world. And Sarah's children's cabinet email address is there. If you guys, and I think she put it in chat. And okay, since we got a little bit of time, we can go ahead. And how is everything going since last week? Anybody?
You mean two weeks ago?
2 weeks ago? Yeah. Well, last week counts too. It was a horrible week for me on a lot of levels.
Right. So for Jennifer, and you're talking about nervousness, yeah, 2 weeks ago was our first one of these, and like, right, we overcame.
Mm-hmm.
We overcame.
We slogged through the Tuesday. We learned from the Monday one what not to do on the Thursday one. So, and oh, you too. I was sick last week as well. I had an inner ear infection, which really made things difficult for me. Oh, okay. It will just be weird not getting feedback as I read. Yeah, I had if you have children staying with you, they can give you all the feedback you need. The live ones have the advantage on the feedback, Mandy, if you do a live broadcast, because if you're doing a live Zoom, you might be able to get responses from people. It's not guaranteed. And yeah, not having the eye contact is really, really weird, but maybe with the Zoom and you make sure they all have their cameras on so you can see their reactions and things, and hopefully it won't be too distracting. But that's a good observation about trying to teach these skills virtually or doing story times virtually.
I think that's the hardest part for me, is not getting the feedback. But I've been doing it for so long. I started when we first, back in April. I've been getting feedback just from parents who say, oh, my kids, you know, they love watching your videos, which that really helps, knowing that someone's watching them and enjoying them, and they're just not, you know, being.
Yeah, and they're just not out there and nobody's. The other thing is I think if you're uploading them to YouTube, you can have the comments for people to leave messages maybe. And it's always it might be a good idea. I don't know if you guys feel comfortable with it, but maybe including your email address at the end so they can send you feedback maybe, or get on an email list or something like that. You know, whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever the rules your various libraries may have if you need that feedback. But I've heard from people around the country that some people have become rock stars. That they're getting like nothing but feedback from people when they, you know, one of the storytellers was talking about how she was stopped almost every aisle by somebody when she was shopping, by people saying, your story times are so wonderful, thank you for putting them up. And she was just like, I don't believe this. You know, she didn't think that many people were watching them. So, you know, don't be surprised if you have a fan group out there and you're not aware of it. Okay, I see we've reached the 45-minute mark. I am stopping recording right now.